My guest today are the stars of the new Broadway musical, It Should Have Been You, which USA Today has called the freshest, funniest musical of the season, and The Hollywood Reporter has said it is 100 minutes of comic gold, and I can tell you it is. I've already seen it twice. Directed by Emmy and Tony Award-winning director David Hyde Pierce. The musical by Brian Hargrove and Barbara Anselmi has blushing brides, nervous grooms, overbearing moms, unexpected guests, and enough twists and turns to make even the most experienced wedding planner throw up his hands. So please welcome Harriet Harris, Lisa Howard, Sierra Boggess, Montego Glover, and Chip Zien, the company of It Should Have Been You.
Guys. Hello.
Hi. Have we started?
We started.
What's the first question?
Fabulous, here we go. Well, hi there. This is such a fun madcap musical. What are you each enjoying the most about doing It Should Have Been You?
I'll start. I love the journey that we take the audience on. At first, I think they don't know what to expect, and then they take a really great ride with us, and we can hear them audibly expressing their joy at the journry. That's my favorite part.
Should I go? I've been in like 78 Broadway shows, and or 90, and I've never in my life have I heard like the laughs that we get. Like Harriet says something, it's like an atomic bomb has just gone off in the theater. It's so. The audience response is like surfing on a wave of love. I don't know. It's fantastic.
I would say, can I?
Montego.
Thank you. I would say the company. I really love this group of actors. Everyone is so skilled and so crafted and so genuinely collaborative and funny and great to work with. It's really a joy to be at work every day.
That's 100% what I was going to say, except not so eloquently. I just unhealthily love everybody in the theater. Thank you so much.
And I was going to say the same thing, too, except I also like putting on false eyelash. I don't know, the company or false eyelash.
I love rooming with Edward Hibbert.
Oh, yeah.
If you haven't had that experience, I hope you do at some point in your lifetime.
Who rooms together? Are some of you sharing?
We're together.
Yes. My ego and I are together.
Yeah, I take a little corner of Edward Hibbert's room. I'm off to the left. Should you come in there, I'm the guy cowering in the left-hand corner.
And when Edward saw that the two of them were, they were going to room together, he said, "That's good. That's good casting. That is. That's very good casting."
And I room with Ann L. Nathan, who plays Aunt Sheila and Mimsy.
So who is the go-to dressing room? Is there a hangout dressing room like before? Okay.
Ours, Grand Central. Yeah.
Lisa and Sierra.
It's the spiritual center of the show.
It is actually. Yeah.
Shocker.
It is.
It's got like peanut butter pretzels and a Himalayan salt lamp.
Yeah.
So it's got sort of everything in
Yeah.
it.
So it's all about the treats.
Well, smudge sticks, treats.
Yeah, we'll sage you. We will sage
All that
you.
stuff, yeah.
There's like stones in there.
Yeah, you pick a stone every night. It has a different word that you're supposed to think about.
It's all sorts of amazing new wavy stuff that, of course, I believe in wholeheartedly.
Chip pulls a stone every night, and he's like, "What does this even mean?" And it's like love or it's like it's not that hard. But he's like, "Oh, this isn't. What is this?" You know?
I'm troubled if it's a verb or an adjective. I just can't follow the whole thing. But
How did this show happen for each of you? Because some of you did it at George Street and some of you joined for Broadway.
I will take that one first because I was there at the first table read of it, and I've known Brian and David for a long time, and I was doing a show here in New York, and they said, "Will you come and do this?" And I thought, "Oh, that's a lot of fun," and it was part of the BMI workshop, and that Brian and Barbara had developed this, and they wanted to hear a reading of it, and we sat around and read it, and I just thought, well, this is funny. And then Brian said, well, I'm glad you like it because I wrote the part for you. So that was really lovely. And he said, if we ever get to do anything or go anywhere, if you want the part, it's yours. So I didn't want the part. But I very much wanted to do it and have been always hoping that we would get to move it along. And we've done workshops of it, and there was a production out in Seattle that I don't think any of us really, except for the script, was involved with. And then we did some more workshops here, and then we went to George Street.
Yep.
where
Yeah.
lovely Lisa.
Right. Well, and I had joined when they did the presentation at NAMPT,
At NAMPT.
at National Alliance of Musical Theater. But I don't remember where in the process, like how far from the BMI workshop that was, or if you had done more than a table read before we did that
I
presentation.
think
Do you
so.
know?
Yeah, I think so.
So I
think
came
we've done
in
sort of a
a couple steps after the very beginning, but still quite a while ago because
Yeah.
it's been kicking around for a while. So I did that first presentation because it wasn't the full show. It was a 30-minute selection of the show, and then I went on to do the subsequent readings and then the George Street production, and the rest is history.
Sierra, for you.
I had seen the production because I had just done masterclass with Tyne Daly. So we all took a little field trip as a company that it had just closed, and we went on the train and we went to George Street and we saw them do this incredible piece. I thought it was so funny, and that was it. That's all that I knew of it, is seeing Tyne in the show and just enjoying it so much. And then I think it was like a year later or something, I just got a random phone call saying they would like you to play Rebecca Steinberg. And I was like, in this piece called It Should Have Been You, I was like, oh my God, I saw it, yes. I was like, yep, thank you. And then it was still a couple years later until actually it came to be. So, yeah.
Montego, for you.
Late last summer, I was doing the gala for the George Street Playhouse, and Lisa was there, and I remember she sang before I did, and she sang this song called Something Something, and she was just tearing it up, and I was like, yes, do it, cut to me at the Old Globe Theater this past fall, and I get a call saying, hey, casting would love to see you for It Should Have Been You, and I was like, I'm not done with my play, but tell them thank you so much, and if I get back to New York in time, that'd be great, and I was like, I'm sure they'll find somebody, it'll be great. Well, I get back to New York, and casting goes, still looking, want to come in? And I was like, yeah. So I came in, I sang, I read, I got the job. Yeah.
Chip, for you.
I don't know. I heard Mandy turned it down, and no, I was sitting at home and I got a call from my agent saying like, you have this offer to do February. There's a show called It Should Have Been You, and I thought like, oh God, it's another 3-day reading or so 29-hour reading, and I said, okay, well, you know what, it sounds fine, sounds good. And she said, no, I don't think you're understanding. She said, this is like an amazing thing. It's David Hyde Pierce directing and this incredible cast, these people who are sitting here now. This thing is like on Broadway. And I said, well, look, wow. I said, here's the thing. I said, I could pretend like I'm going to, call you back in like a day after I look at the material really carefully. But the truth is, I'm so excited to be working with all these people. I'm going to tell you, my agent, yes, right now. Right now. I'm going to say yes right now, okay? And I said, you can wait a day or two so they don't think I'm too over-eager. But that's how I came on board, and it was I made the right choice. It was a great decision.
Chip's choice.
Yeah.
Good job.
Chip's choices.
Chip's choices. I like
That's a
that.
hashtag. Please use it.
It is, yeah.
It really is. Chip's
Well,
We
let's
started that like the third day of rehearsal.
Yeah, we did. We said, Chip, what's your choice? And then became hashtag Chip's choices.
So you have to go on Instagram now. You have to do
Yeah.
social media, Chip.
Yeah.
Well, I was saying before, my kids don't want me to go on. They're embarrassed. I don't know.
These are your
Afraid of
other
what?
kids, though, Chip.
Yeah, it's
we
true.
want you to go on.
Yeah.
Your
I
view
love
of
it.
the world should really be on Instagram. 'Cause it's a unique view.
Or a reality series you should have, totally. Chip's Choices on Broadway, or something like that. Well, let's talk about your director, David Hyde Pierce. Talk about working with him and what makes him such a great director.
Harriet?
Oh, you go.
All right, I'll start. David is so kind and compassionate. He knows how to talk to actors. He is so funny and very silly. And he's available. He's very, very approachable and available, in addition to being incredibly talented as an actor. Yeah.
He's got a sort of compass and a sensibility that I think that's so important, and it's kind of underrated. People talk about, talent or smarts, but David has a sensibility, and he approaches life this way, and he approaches his work and his friendships, and it really is almost like a moral standard or compass or something, and it's unerring, or at least it's self-correcting. Anything and that's just very important, I think, when you're doing comedy, particularly, because you want the you want there to be bigger jokes and smaller jokes, but they all, it needs to exist in a world where these things don't pop out or don't become too too trendy or too classical or anything, just that you've developed a world that makes sense. And he has done that with everybody. And we do have very different delivery and approach to work, but you'd never know it because we are all just allowed to work the way we work, and we all got on board with each other. I think from just the get-go. Yeah. I hit Lisa up for $10 when I hadn't seen her for 3 years.
It's the truth. We were walking into the 42nd Street studios, and she realized there wasn't coffee upstairs, and she goes, "Lisa, I need money." And I immediately said, "Okay, here." And she said, "I'll give you back." You know, and she brought it to me the next day, and I literally hadn't seen it.
And I think Matthew Morrison was standing there too, and he just went.
Yeah.
It was sort of like, if she's hitting people up for money.
I'm getting out of the elevator now.
I trapped all you guys to have lunch with me the first day.
That's true.
I forced them all to
We
have
went to
lunch.
Chevy's,
Yeah.
you know, the classiest restaurant we could find.
Yeah, I wanted to say about David too is you know it's always for me comedy kind of exists in a fun room, and the room was fun.
Yeah.
That's kind of what, and he knows about that because he's been through the same things that we've been through. So it was really a fun room, and I guess we mentioned that we all played volleyball, and one of the things he did, if it ever got even remotely tense or we got tired or we needed to, re-energize ourselves, we had the silliest game of volleyball, which became horrendously competitive. But the object of it was that the last person to hit the ball over the net had to do it with their head. So we used a softball, relatively not a softball, but a soft beach ball like thing.
Yes.
And it was always, a highlight, and it always took the pressure off of us in ways that was terrific. Were terrific.
Well, what I liked is that he created such an easy atmosphere that, as an actor, you felt free to make different choices, and because that's not always the case. You feel like, I better get it right the first time, or he just created. It was safe. I felt like in that rehearsal room, and he would give you a direction, and you would try it, and if it didn't work, he'd be like, "Oof, ignore what I said. That was awful." It was okay for him to make a mistake or for us to make a bad choice, and you just moved on and you tried something, or you built on what you do, and it was just it was very freeing. I found in my experience with him.
And because you respect him so much as an actor, then you immediately, anything that he said, you're like, yep, that's probably the best way to do it. Because it's just like, I watched you on Frasier this morning on WeTV, so that was right. Yep, I'll go with that.
I found myself saying, "Damn it, you're good."
With so much comedy in this show, I'm sure you couldn't wait to take it out of the rehearsal room and add the audience into the mix.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, like any show, at some point, you really do need to put it in front of people. So they're the last installment, you know what I mean? Until you switch gears and move on to running the show, So yes.
And especially for us, like the new kids for this, we had no idea how they were going to react. Whereas like these rocks were like, no, you guys, it works. I promise it works. And then sure enough, the first night, and we hear this, because it's every night we get this kind of response that's just insane. And I've never been a part of anything like that before. I mean, I'm known for my comedies.
There are more laughs in our show than Phantom. Okay? Just saying.
I just can't get
Just saying,
those
we can't-
laughs. I keep going back. I keep wheeling myself back out, but can't get the laughs.
But it must have been great, though, that first performance on stage in front of a live audience, how you all must have felt that night, of just finding that comic timing.
Oh, yeah, I don't even
minding
think,
it,
I
or
mean,
just-
that we had rehearsed it, so the timing was pretty much
Well, and we had
there.
audiences in the rehearsal room. It wasn't like the first time anybody had ever, and we've had to wait for the laugh, and every of that. But yes, when you hear a full house,
Yeah.
that's a different.
It's like a little fan, one of these fans like this, and then it's amazing, and it really is. It's a thrill to do it, and I have done a lot of comedies, and people hardly ever let me do anything else. I have to really fight hard to do anything else, but it is wonderful because everybody, and it's like that volleyball thing. Everybody either setting it up for somebody to hit it or somebody's landing this. Oh.
Oh, look who's here. Where's your song?
Oh, look who's here.
Look who's here. I love this.
Look how nice you look.
I'm from a wedding. Very meta.
Apparently.
I go to a wedding every day just to get in the character of my.
Ladies and gentlemen, David Burtka.
Hello.
No, keep it on.
this off?
No, keep it on.
It looks so cute.
We love this.
He's like,
Too late. Sorry.
well, one thing I was going.
Oh, nice. You better take that pin out. Oh, okay.
You know, David, we started to talk about talking about the show and how much fun it is. First of all, welcome back to Broadway for you.
Oh, thank you so much.
What has it been like being back on Broadway again? Because you've been gone for a while.
Terrible. It's been absolutely amazing. I've had such a joy. I mean, to be in the company of these people every single night, it's not a job. It really is such a joy to be a part of. And to come to be a part of something this special, I think it's a really fun show. And it's a great show to do every night. So, wonderful.
And working
Yeah,
with your director, we were talking about what a wonderful director David Hyde Pierce is.
True.
What was it like working with him?
Great. You know, I don't know what was said, but what I loved with David was, because he's such an actor first and foremost, to see him put the other characters on. Like if we're at a 10-minute break or whatever, you could see him embody, you know, if it was a scene between me and Michael X. Martin, my dad, you could see him become me or become Michael and do the scene in his head like he's, you know, split personalities. But he would act it out and think, what are the best choices as an actor before he became the director watching it. He'd sort of embody it first. I thought that was really interesting. I've never seen a director do that.
Yeah. What are you enjoying the most about doing this show and working with this cast?
Working. Just working. Again, I mean, it's been such a long time. And I mean, theater for me, I was in LA for a while, and theater for me is just brings me so much joy to have that audience, to have that, you know, other character in front of you responding, and every night's so different, and it's been such a joy. I mean, just to be doing what I love to do has been great.
And what I love about this show is it's a brand new musical. You know, it's not a revival. It's something you all got to work on together with the creators that sort of created these roles with you. That must be really special, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
One thing I love about David, though, is yes, it's a comedy, and it's all about, you know, it has so many laughs, but I think the reason it is funny is because we've created these very real people, you know, and it's not just about the jokes, and it's not about that. It's about creating these people that you end up caring about. And that's why the audience is on that journey with us every night, because you care about them.
And I think that's why it was hard in rehearsal, is that for people who hadn't done it before, the show is so cumulative, and the audience really has to follow everything in order for us to get these big responses that we get towards the end. There are a lot of responses throughout, but it really is character driven. It's not jokey, you know. So you do have to be real, and you do have to develop that character, and then the payoff is enormous. But that's what you don't know about when you're sitting there reading it, or when you're just in rehearsal in a vacuum when everybody's heard everything, or you're rehearsing this scene but not getting to the end every day. You just have no sense of, that's what it is. I mean, you can really feel the audience starting to, you know, travel with you. And a friend of mine that came to see it and has known David and Brian for a long time, he didn't know anything about the show. He sat down and he opened the program and he went, "Oh, it's a musical." And he thought, I just really don't like these musicals. And then something happened, and he went, okay, well, for a musical. And then something else happened. Well, okay, all right, I'm actually enjoying this. You know, we'll see how long that lasts, but I'm kind of, and then something happening, went, you can do anything you want with me. I am so involved in this story now. And he really loved it. He said it transported him in ways that he had not expected, and what a joyful experience it was. And it was sort of like, you know, I've been to other musicals, so I know this isn't why people like musicals, but this was really great. I would love to see it again.
Yeah.
So
Pass these down to David if he needs them for running from your wedding. If you look great, but if you want to
You
dampen your
do.
forehead, you can.
How dare you say I look-
either that or give us some.
Oh, very
fallback.
We call it
Hello, too.
star dew. That's what we call it. Like dew. Like,
Yeah.
no.
You do. One thing, my husband saw it a third time the other day, and he said he liked it the third time the best. Because there is so many hidden things that you don't necessarily get the first time. I don't know if you guys have seen it or you guys planning to see it. Oh, great.
Thank you.
But he said because there is this twist at the end and you sort of come to the scenes new, there are things that happen that you don't necessarily get until you see it again. And you go, oh, that's why they were acting that way. So he sort of wishes the thank you. You got it. You're hired. Don't touch me. Don't touch me. Or look me in the eye.
I do this every night. He's such a diva. I have to do this every night.
And I told you not to look me in the eye. But it's true. I mean, there are a lot of hidden gems that you don't necessarily get the first time. So go see it again.
Go see it again.
Also, I think what's so cool is because it's not based on a book or a movie or anything like that, then everybody has to listen. Like, so everybody sits down and they really are on the journey because it's not just like, oh, I know what this is and wait till you see. It's, you have to listen to it. So I think that accounts for why the audience is so vocal because they don't know. Neither do we.
But I love it. As soon as that drop goes up, it just starts. You all set it up. We know the kind of fun journey we're going to have in this musical, and it's so great. I want to go back to the beginning for a second. Where did your love for performing begin, and what were your early creative outlets for each of you?
Chip.
Starting with me? I'm not at the front of any line here. I'm sort of just.
Just want to hear what started.
Well, for me, I was a boy soprano. I had a magnificent boy soprano voice, and I went to camp in Hayward, Wisconsin. Probably all of you have been there. It's the log rolling capital of the world.
Amazing.
Yeah, and I was very fortunate to play the lead in all those shows. I was Lola in Damn Yankees. I was Annie in Annie Get Your Gun, and then I was Liza in My Fair Lady, and then my mom made a phone call. She was furious that he's going to camp. It was a rugged camp, as you can well imagine, because I was there. And she said, shouldn't he be out on a canoe trip or camping, actually, as opposed to camping by wearing a wig and a dress? Never made that connection. But that's how I started. That was how I could sing. I don't know why I could sing. I don't know what happened, so that was my start.
I love it.
Yeah.
That should be
Of
the
course,
name of
that's your story, Chip.
Yeah.
that should be the name of your nightclub act.
Yeah. Well,
Chip, I can sing.
yeah. Well, yeah, I do a club act, and in it I do recreate some of my finer moments at North Star Camp in Hayward, Wisconsin.
We are so coming.
Yeah,
we
yeah.
are so there.
You must all come to see it. Yeah. Yeah.
Who else wants to?
I would do lots of shows with the neighborhood kids, puppet shows, and we would put on costumes. My grandma made tons of costumes at a big bin, and then as I got a little older in like middle school, my dad was an educator for mentally and physically handicapped kids, and every summer he'd teach the summer program, and so my friends would get together and we put on the most elaborate plays and musicals and sing and dance, and we'd perform them for these handicapped kids. I mean, they had no idea what we were doing, but we had a lot of fun, so that was my outlet for it.
I started studying acting when I was 12. I had the great privilege of going to an incredible school and fell in love with the classics. We were doing them, we were recreating them. I was a 12-year-old with other 12-year-olds who were very serious artists. We, they're totally talking about me right now. And we put up our plays and we loved it. I remember one time in school, like my second or third year in the program, we were taking bows. We had done like Beauty and the Beast and recreated it. We were so proud of it. We did all the costumes and the sets and the makeup design, so on and so forth. And we were taking our company bow and we did the upsweep, and all of our like teachers and parents were out there and they were applauding, and I was holding the hands of my cast members. And I remember thinking, I'm so happy right now. This is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. So I went to acting school.
That was like Super Soul Sunday.
That's it.
Me? I just always liked being in front of people. I was an ice skater for 10 years, and I would do like competitions and stuff. I wasn't like, I always sang and things like with my sisters, but I discovered loving being in front of people by like performing through ice skating, and then that sport is so expensive, so then we had to stop, and then I guess the natural place to put me was like in an acting class, and so that's where I went, and I just loved it because then everyone had to listen when I talk or sang. Namaste.
I would sit in front of our record player and listen to show albums, The Sound of Music and Annie, and I would just sing and sing and sing. And my brothers were so annoyed at me, and I got the solos and the Christmas pageants and things like that. And someone said to my mom, maybe you should get her voice lessons. This was 5th or 6th grade. And so I did that, and then I ended up, I really started and found a love of performing because I did show choir, which is very big in Ohio, and I'm from Akron, Ohio, and I did show choir, and so I learned how to sing and dance and smile, and well, kind of. In Ohio. Well, I didn't go to that one, but I could have, but no, I was in the ETC.
I was that good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. But I was in the ETC All-American Youth Show Choir. And it was, like we had a whole week-long workshop in the summer, and you learned how to sing and dance and smile, and that's where that love started. And then I did my high school shows and things like that. But yeah, that's how I began.
And I began to overcome shyness. I was sent to a theater school, and you think that's funny? It was tough love. So it really was. Some of my mother's friends just said, "Eleanor, your daughter, she's just backward. You've got to. She is not going to get anywhere like this because it's just where in the town I grew up, everyone was very social. So I'm fairly reserved when I'm not doing the thing I do. So I like a context. I think rehearsal provides a context. The show provides a context. I love amusing people, and I love putting stories out in front of people and communicating that way. It's very, and from that sort of 6-year-old trying to learn how to relate to people, it's been a great way. It's been a great avenue, and probably the best course my life could have taken, I think. Although I think I would have been a good florist, too. Yes. But that would have been a more private.
I feel I would have been an amazing doorman. And I just said,
Wow.
I've always wanted to do. I love saying hi.
Yeah.
I'm so good at that. Come on in. I don't know. I love that. You need an umbrella. All that, anything like that.
It was your natural disdain and reserve that would make you such a good doorman.
Please come in.
God. You were out late again.
You all have these wonderful, diverse careers, so I'd like to talk about some of your highlights, and just tell me what comes to mind, a story or a memory. Okay? I'm going to start with Harriet. Your Tony and Drama Desk Award-winning role of Mrs. Mears in Thoroughly Modern Millie.
I saw it. I saw it.
I saw it.
We were all
It
there.
was wonderful. I loved it. It was the first big musical I'd ever gotten to do. It really was sort of the first musical I ever did. So, although I did sing a line in The Italian Straw Hat, which was no cheese. I can probably do it. I'm not sure I can hit those notes anymore. So this was the first, that was the first one, and I didn't know anything about it. I still can't read music, although I do see now that it goes up and down. But when people are like going, this thing does this, or this, Schwarzando, or whatever, it's like, come on, what? It's like something you order in an Italian restaurant. I still don't know. So I am a handicap in some ways to a production, and because I am so completely ignorant in some ways, it's sort of like, oh, she's going to make the rest of us look so good. Let's have her. So I have lucked into getting to participate in this world a number of times, and it's been some of the most joyous times ever, because it's really, really fun, really talented people who can fly without a net, and it's It's just very different than what I thought my career would be, which was going to be in classical theater, where it really is much more on the page, and then so it's so much fun, and it's always, as it turns out, even when I've been a little unhappy, it's always been kind of a highlight to get to be in a group like this, and this is just the best as far as I'm concerned.
Chip, for you, creating the role of the baker in the original production of the Stephen Sondheim, James of Hyde musical, Into the Woods.
I don't remember. No, I'm kidding. I was the baker in Into the Woods. You know, obviously one of the great, just an amazing, thrilling experience. And there's always, I think, an element of luck. I mean, literally, I was joking before, but I was not the first choice. I mean, it was actually Tom Hulse. I think they wanted Tom Hulse, but the movie of Amadeus had just happened, and he was unavailable. So I got a call for that saying they are completely lost. They don't have any idea who to cast. They wanted Tom Hulse. They can't get him, but they kind of are interested in you. I said, well, that's lovely. I was, at the time I was in L.A., I was doing a TV show, and Ira Weitzman, who ran the musical theater program at Playwrights Horizons, called me up. This is where Into the Woods started. And he said, they're going to ask you to come in and audition. If you come in, they may change their minds. He said, but if you don't come in, he said, I think they're going to hire you because they can't think of anyone else. I said, so you're asking me to lie my way. I'm going to stay here in L.A., say I'm too busy to fly back for this great role. And he said, I think that's the way to play this. And so I actually lied my way into the Woods, which is a show about moral responsibility. And but you know, I had done a couple of years before that a production of Merrily Roll Along. That's how I met Sondheim and Lapine, and I feel to this day to be like the luckiest guy in the world. I mean, that my path crossed with. I was friendly with Lapine because of Falsettos and Playwrights Horizons, and I had this group of friends, and those guys got famous and successful and well known, and I had just kind of been part of their crowd. And so the luck of it always strikes me as being amazing, and the timing of it. And of course, it was an unbelievable experience. I mean, I won't go on too long, but I watched Sondheim, come in with music written in my key, spread it out on the piano, like, how they do on those pieces of paper all taped together, the music, and spreads it out, and it's kind of falling off either side. And I watched him sing a song which I love called No More for Into the Woods. And I turn around, and Paul Gemignani, who's a big bear of a guy who conducted all of the Sondheim shows for many, many years, it's just tears streaming down his face. And we all it was, it's just a glorious and unbelievable experience that I never would have imagined that I would have. That's
beautiful, really wonderful. David, you had the opportunity of working with Edward Albee twice.
Yes.
Right, first in the play about the baby, and then the Goater, who was Sylvia. What were those experiences for you like in working with Edward?
It was wild. I mean, I was in acting school at William Esper after I had done some musical theater, so I was not allowed to audition for anything. So I was strictly doing a lot of commercials. I was paying the rent, doing commercial after commercial. And Jerry Beaver, who was a commercial agent, also did some other stuff. Downtown said, I've got a great play for you. Would you be interested in auditioning for a play? And I'm like, I'm not really doing that. And he's like, it's a new Edward Albee play. I'm like, I'm in. So I go into the audition, and it's just Edward sitting in a chair, and we had to prepare a new monologue. And I worked on this monologue that was sort of about, being hurt in a way in my soul, and sort of very Albee-esque. And I got a call that afternoon that I got the role. Now, this was the out-of-town tryout sort of at the Alley Theater with Marion Seldes and Earl Hindman were the two leads. And Edward was directing. So we did it at the Alley first, and Earl Hindman, the first night, had a stroke on stage. It was the craziest thing. So his understudy had to jump in, and it was crazy rewrites, and then we ended up doing it in New York. Yeah. And that was amazing. He became such a mentor to me. I mean, he was very scary and very, he didn't give much. But once you realized he's just a softie, He's just the nicest man in the world. He's very intimidating, and he loves animals and kids. And I actually went to his house this past summer in Montauk and brought my kids and my dogs, and because Liz McCann was like, he's not seeing anyone. Bring your kids, bring your dogs, And he was very much Edward sitting there in the corner, grimacing. And then as soon as I came in, he lit up with the kids. But it was an amazing experience to get to do the GOAT that won the Pulitzer and the Tony that year. Was an amazing experience. I mean, he's such a prolific playwright and funny at the same time, but also just awfully sad at the same time.
Yeah,
So
beautiful.
It was wonderful.
Sierra creating Ariel and becoming a Disney princess in the musical The Little Mermaid.
Yes, I did. Is probably one of my favorite things that is going to follow me around the rest of my life. I loved every thing that I possibly could learn from that experience, and that was just like aligning with when you're 7 years old in the tub pretending you're Ariel, and then 20 years later then you get to actually be her. It was like that thing that I like in kindergarten. I used to always wish that we could do The Little Mermaid like for a play or something, and I was like, oh, but I don't have red hair because then I dyed it. But and also like then growing up, and then for the audition I watched the cartoon to be like, why do we love her so much? Like, let me get real about it as an adult, of like what it is that, like how she speaks, what it is about her. And I think my favorite thing now is that the letters that I receive and that I received while doing the show are from people who identify with her because they feel like they were born in the wrong body, or that nobody understands them, and that's who she represents. So it's like beyond, I love the Disney and the princess aspect of it, and that she's totally hot. But it's like, it's the really underlying thing, it's that a lot of people look to her because she made it. You know what I mean? And it's actually quite special. So every time that I sing Part of Your World, which is a lot of times, and I feel so lucky that that's the song I'll be asked to sing for the rest of my life, it's just, there's a lot of hope. So yeah.
You're beautiful in that. Just beautiful. Thank you so much. Montego, your drama desk and Outer Critics Circle Award-winning role of Felicia in the hit musical Memphis. Brilliant performance in that. Looking back, favorite memories of that?
Oh, gosh. Sitting down with David Bryan, who is our composer and a founding member of Bon Jovi, with David at the piano and listening to him sing Colored Woman to me for the first time, both moving and totally comedic. Wow. I remember going in to casting for the Broadway production. We're going to go out of town, of course, and then come in. And I'm sitting out in the hallway. I had been asked to come in and read with the boys. I had already been cast, and I had done the first reading, so I had been there from the beginning, which was thrilling in and of itself. And I remember the casting director coming out and saying, hey, Montego, you're going to read with this guy's name's Chad. You guys have a look, and then come on in when you're ready. We went down the hall, and we read, and it was instant like ping. And we happened to have a kissing scene. And we kissed, and we pulled back, and I remember looking at him and going, wow, it's you. So we went in, and we read, and it went great, and when we were done, I remember we were both just standing there in front of the whole creative team, just like, yeah, fast forward to opening night on Broadway, you know what I mean? And there we were at bows, like, thrilling. 6 years of development, you know, like 3 years on Broadway, nearly half of my professional career spent working on, loving, massaging, birthing that piece. And for the rest of time, you know, it's part of me. It thrills me when girls, all colors and shapes and creeds of girls, come up to me and say, I'm singing Colored Woman in my jury, or I'm singing, you know, I'm singing Someday for my, you know, audition or something like that. They're so touched by it. They're so free because of it, and it's thrilling.
So great.
Thank you.
Lisa, your drama desk winning role of Rona, Lisa Peretti, in the William Finn musical, the 25th Annual Putnam Spelling Bee. Directed by James Lapine.
Yeah.
Great time, wasn't it?
It was amazing. It was a whirlwind experience. I wasn't there when the concept came about, because it started with an improv company, just a small downtown improv company, and they said, let's do a show about a spelling bee. Everybody come up with a character, and we'll just do it about an improv show about a spelling bee. And so then Sarah Salzberg, who was in that improv company, it was Wendy Wasserstein's nanny. And so Bill Finn is good friends with her, came to see it, and she said, you need to make that into a musical. And so he did, and we did a workshop of it in February of 2004, and then that summer we did the production at the Great Barrington, up in Great Barrington, in a cafetorium. It was an elementary school cafeteria with a little stage, which is perfect. And then that fall, James Lapine came on as the director, and by the next February, we were on Broadway. From nothing, from no show, to opening on Broadway in a year. So compared to the 6-year process that it was to get, it just was whirlwind. And I think the neatest part was when we were doing, there's 2 parts that I love. First, when we were doing the workshop, and Bill Finn is writing a song for me, which ultimately got cut from the real production, but I had his big number mid-show. And, and he's at the piano, and he's singing, and he's doing another verse, and this is very Bill, he's big and gruff, and he's singing, and he's like, is anybody writing this down? And he's writing a song for me, for my voice, which was just amazing. And then the other special moment that I just could have pinched myself, it's my Broadway debut, and I remember we were opening the Tonys, and I remember sitting behind the curtain waiting to go up, because the first musical number was us, and I had the first thing to say, and I was like, and Bernadette Peters was standing up front singing a medley of something before I was like, where am I? What is this? John Lithgow is over here, and somebody else is over here. I'm like, okay, I'm doing it. Then this is it. This is what I came to New York to do.
That is great. We're going to be losing Montego shortly, so I want to ask her 2 questions, which we're going to cut in later in the piece. So I want to ask you about The Color Purple on Broadway, that whole experience, what it was like, because you stood by and played both Celie and Nettie.
Yes.
Talk about that, yeah.
Oh my gosh. First of all, my Broadway debut. Yeah. And if someone had told me when I was a wee lass in acting school, crying and sweating at the ballet bar and crawling through acting class, that there was going to be a musical about The Color Purple, I would have said, that's absurd. That doesn't make any sense. And then cut 2, there I was. So I had been asked to come in and read and sing for Celie and Nettie, to stand by for both those roles. I remember reading that book. I'm a huge fan of Alice Walker. I have all of her books in my collection, my personal collection. And I got the call saying, you got it. And I showed up at the theater. It was my first Broadway show. And it was like all these actors and the stage manager and the stage door. And I was invited in. I was supposed to be inside the stage door, not outside the stage door. And it was thrilling, getting to play both those roles, which I think I possess inside of me. And having the opportunity to really exercise and work as an actress in that way. Meeting the actresses who originated those roles and being able to learn the show on them. And being a part of the original vision of it was so exciting. And I remember the first time I went on, it was thrilling. It was thrilling. I'll never forget it as long as I live. Yeah. So great.
My final question for you is, what is the best bit of advice that you've been given, both personally and professionally, that you live by?
My father told me many, many years ago, and I've stood by it because it really works. He said, darling, don't let anybody pull you off your path. It sounds pretty simple. It sounds like, but it has proven extraordinarily useful and helpful advice, particularly when you do the kind of work that we do, particularly when you live in the metropolis that is New York City, and you're a participating member of the world and society. Be very clear about who you are and where you're going, and do not let anyone pull you off your path. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you for that. She has to leave. Let's hear it for Montego Glover.
Thank you.
And then if you gentlemen want to move down, just slide down. Perfect. Thank you for coming, Montego. Thank you for everything.
Want to change mic?
I don't know.
Should I put this on the ground?
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I think so. Yep. We're not going to get feedback if we put the mic on the floor, are we? Okay, good. So I want to go back to Chip and Lisa for a second. You both got to work with James Lapine because you worked with James Lapine during Falsettos and all the March of the Falsettos. What was it like working with him as a director?
I hear for our show he was pretty mellow. I enjoyed working with him. He can be pretty kind of hard, or he'll pick one person to kind of nag at. But he knows what he wants, and he. What I loved when we were rehearsing Spelling Bee, he had us bring in pictures of ourselves as kids. He had us do fun vocal exercises, like to get us to find that kid in us. But yet he wanted it very real. He wanted these characters to be real. So I think with him, you kind of have to stand up for yourself sometimes, and once you do, he's in. He's all yours, but he pokes and prods and tests you. But I kind of enjoyed that about him because I'm not afraid to stand up for myself.
What was he like for you during that time?
Look, I basically have no career without him. I mean, he's everything to me. But he can be tricky. But usually when he was tricky with me, he would just he would say to Bill Finn, "He's your friend. You take care of him now." Just go get Chip a sandwich. Whenever he gets hungry, he's impossible. So he would tell Bill Finn, William Finn, to go, "Billy, go get Chip a sandwich because I can't deal with him right now."
That's what we need to do now. Good to know.
So, I love James. I mean, in the shows that I did with him, he brought a clarity to the yin and yang. Bill Finn is a phenomenal talent, but chaotic.
Yeah.
And James Lapine is the opposite of that. He's like a laser beam at like fixing things and making things work. And we would focus, and we would sit in rehearsals for March of the Falsettos. And in those days, by the way, this is a long time ago. James would be drinking a Corona. we'd be at Playwrights Horizons. He'd have a Corona in one hand and directing the show. And but Billy would bring in songs, and they'd hand us the paper with the lyrics for the song on it, and Lapine would look at it, and he would go like, "Yeah, okay, that's terrible. We're not going to do that," and he would just throw it away. And so March of the Falsettos. Those shows there was a big bulletin board with cards on the bulletin board with titles of songs, and a lot of the things were written and moved around in different pieces like a big jigsaw puzzle. And Lapine made that work. I mean, he focused Bill Finn. And so that was an amazing collaboration. And I don't, they together were just a powerful force. Yeah. And so I love them. Yeah, I mean, I loved every minute I spent with James.
Sure.
Yeah.
David playing Tulsa opposite Bernadette Peters in the revival of Gypsy. Memories of that?
Right. Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. There's good things and bad things to say about it. I don't want to say bad things. I don't want to say anything bad. But Sam Mendes had this clear vision of what it was supposed to be. And it was very much like Cabaret, this dark, dirty, seedy production where in the strip club, Cigar was feeling up the strippers, and he was adding swear words, and we were all in dirty costumes, and Dainty June was smoking cigarettes in the wings, and at the end, Bernadette was supposed to be in a not so flattering dress with mascara running down her face, and Arthur Lawrence came in and said, "You can't do any of this. You cannot change my show." And so Sam was like, "Are you kidding me? This is my vision. This is what," to tell Sam Mendes you can't do something. I mean, he's an Oscar-winning director. It was a little sort of, what? Why are you screwing with our show, in a way? It ended up being great, and it ended up being an amazing experience for me to get to do that song every night. It's one of the best written songs in the musical theater songbook. But at the same time, it was kind of disheartening, too, to see Arthur Lawrence direct his own production with a lot of the things that Sam incorporated.
I knew you were going to say that.
Yeah, and it's just they were at each other. I mean, there are open letters in the New York Times about how much they hated each other. It was crazy. But to have that happen, it was a little bit of a bummer.
Because I loved that production. I loved everything about the Sam Mendes production of Gypsy.
And it was deeper and darker and richer, and we were all in dirty costumes, and it was really like true vaudevillian life. Everything, there was a show going on within a show, so there was a lot of things backstage that were happening that you never necessarily didn't see.
Because I'm sure that world was much seedier than that was ever played out in the original to begin with. That whole world of burlesque and everything else. I'm sure.
Yeah, and I mean, people didn't know that if you read Gypsy Rose Lee's book, Mama Rose was very sexual, and she used a lot of her sex appeal to get what she wanted. So she'd sleep with the producers, she'd sleep with Herbie to get them to be their manager, and she always was sort of played because of Ethel Merman, this big, brassy, sort of not so pretty woman, but she was this sex symbol, really.
You had a great time doing that show, right?
It was an amazing show. It was an amazing process.
Yeah. Harriet, working with Paul Rudnick and playing all the female roles, which were written for you and Jeffrey, right?
I think the first couple weren't. And because there was a very early reading, I was doing another show, and Chris Ashley was directing that, and he said, "Well, I'll bring Harriet to read this," and Paul said, "Oh, all right." And so I think Nathan was in that, and I can't remember who else was in the cast. And Jeffrey was not as big at that time as it became, but Paul said later, he said, I liked you so much, and I didn't think that you would do the play if you only had 2 parts. So I just kept writing parts for you. And by the time we were in rehearsal, he thought, well, this is working very well. He wrote a couple more parts for me for the different sort of like women who pop in and pop out of Jeffrey. And it was so much fun. And they would like be doing scenes that, and this is so pathetic and so true about me, I always think I improve a situation, not a social situation, but I always think, well, there's an opportunity for this, you could do this, or this is, and at one point Paul turned to me and said, I don't know, the scene isn't working, what's wrong? I said, put me in it.
How many parts did you play? How many was it?
I think I really played 7. I like to say I played 9, but I think I played 7. And he did put me in the scene, and it was better. But, but there were things, too. There was a scene that Patrick Kerr and I were doing, and we were supposed to be audience members, and something was happening on stage. And Patrick and I were playing mother and son, and we had our programs, and the main scene was going on down here. I think there was a very poignant scene with Edward and maybe Brian Bat, Edward hit Brian Bat, I'm not sure what. And then the next day we would tell you can't do it like that. Just no. Neither of you can move. Neither of you can do anything. You can't look at one another. You can't do anything. And even then between Patrick and I, we were too distracting. So we got cut. So there would have been 8 parts. But he's so much fun, and he's so creative and so imaginative and endlessly resourceful. And if he doesn't sort of think this is a really wonderful scene, he'll just go, and you can, imagine that you're helping and say, well, what if, and then you learn eventually, just stop the what ifs, because he's going to have the funniest idea. He really is. He's going to come in with something completely different, and he will occasionally say, if you were to do this, what would that be? And then I would say, well, I think maybe this, and he'd go, And then he'd come in with something that was like exponentially so much funnier and so much better than the thing I'd suggested. But he loves to give credit, and he'll always say, oh, but it was your idea. It was, and I think, which would have taken us nowhere, but it took him someplace, he's brilliant.
But that's what I love, like you say, when you get to work on an original cast of something, the creators will ask you, what would Harriet do? What would David do? What would Sierra do? What would Lisa or Chip, any of you do in this scene? That's why I love original casts sometimes. You have it burnt in your brain. Sierra, the Phantom of the Opera is Christine, both on Broadway and West End.
Yes.
The whole Andrew Lloyd Webber years. Let's talk about what that whole time was like.
Well, it started. I am grateful to Andrew and Hal and Jilly for starting my whole career, because I auditioned for Phantom for the Las Vegas Spectacular. They were opening a brand new show in Las Vegas of Phantom. So Hal and Andrew and Jilly Lynn were all in my audition. And I was so young. I was like 23 or something like that. And I remember Hal sitting out in the, because my audition was on the Ambassador stage, actually, where Chicago is. And I remember looking out in the audience, and I didn't know that, but there was like his glasses like on his head and stuff. And then I sang "Think of Me," and he goes, "Well, that was just swell." And I was like, "Oh, someone still uses swell." And and then I learned, well, that's Hal. And then getting that, and so then opening that company meant that I was working with them instead of like just doing replacing somebody. Yeah. So it felt like really originating that, and then so many Hal stories, like in Vegas when the everything was a spectacular, so everything was like upgraded, so there was like fires and things like that, and then the chandelier, which we all have seen Phantom, we think it's like, oh, and then the chandelier like flies down, but really Broadway it's like and in Vegas it was like whew, it was back to, but so we were teching that, and Hal was like, wait a second, and he just like goes and he sits and he's like, all right, sits underneath the chandelier, and it comes down, and I like his one hair was like and we were like, that's a legend, like it could have gone so wrong, but it went fine, and you're like, all right, that's good, so cool. So then and then I went to New York and I did Little Mermaid, and then I went to London and did a show called Love Never Dies, yes, which was the sequel to Phantom, and that was again Andrew taking me to do my first West End show. So the Andrew Lloyd Webber in my life is vast, yeah. And then he asked me to do from there the 25th anniversary of Phantom, which is still for me one of the greatest experiences of my entire life, and I felt like I couldn't do anything artistically for a while after that, because it literally felt like I left my whole artistic soul on the stage at Royal Albert Hall, because we gave every ounce of what we had. Yeah. And I remember talking to my uncle, who's a surgeon, about this before, where I would get anxiety and stuff about performing or not being good enough or what, and he said even as a surgeon, he said, there's some days that I'll go in there and it's like, I wish they had filmed this for like the books, and he's like, and then there's other days it's like, that was good in surgery, and I'm like, that's right. And then it just teaches us that we're all human, and it's like, oh yeah. And so I feel grateful to say that one of the one and only night that we performed that at Royal Albert Hall was the night that I was like, God, I wish they would record that for surgery, and they did.
Good for you.
I just saw this. I just looked at it. Everybody can see this on Netflix, and I've got to tell you, if you have, oh my God,
I haven't seen it yet.
It's spectacular.
It's a revelation. I had never seen Phantom, so my equity card's going to like go up in ashes, I'm sure. But I thought, oh well, I just was so crazy about Sierra. I think maybe I'll like Phantom. I don't know. Oh my God!
It was amazing. I saw it too. Sitting in my apartment, I saw this woman playing. Chris. It was like, oh my God, she's unbelievable.
It is incredible.
And where I met you the next time was at 54 Below. Yeah. And I came back. I was so like nervous to actually meet you, because I thought like, oh my God, this.
And I was nervous. I was like, that's Chip Zien. He must be so like normal.
Well. But, if you haven't seen it, it's one of the really towering performances. Yeah. It's an unbelievable performance.
Lisa, I want to talk to you about 9 to 5. Missy, I loved 9 to 5.
Thank you.
What were your experiences like doing that musical? We went a lot. We saw like 9 to 5 like 5 times.
Oh, I loved it. It was a fun show. It was one of those shows that was really disappointing that it closed so soon. I think with the producers and the management team, it was just, and it ended up being expensive because we had 2 sets of lighting designers because somebody got fired, and that LED screen, there were a lot of things that didn't add up, numbers wise. But the rehearsal process was one of the more difficult, surprisingly enough. Just, I think, for Andy Blankenbuehler and Joe Mantello to mesh about what they wanted that choreography to be. So it was a lot of back and forth. But I left South Pacific specifically to do this because I was going to get to work with Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, I want to meet her. And she's amazing. She's everything you would think she would be. So sweet, so kind, supportive. She wasn't there every day, but she was there a lot. And she would bring homemade fudge. She'd make us fudge and bring it in. And she's always done. Like, you never see her without full beat, full custom outfit shoes. Like, she can't wear flat shoes because her Achilles heels are so small now. Like she flats are uncomfortable for her. We had a whole discussion about it. She would be there after the show. Sometimes she would sit and she would watch the show in the stage management office, like watch it on the screen. 'Cause she can't really just sit out in the audience because people would be like, Dolly Parton's here, you know. And so every night we'd come on, you know, when she was there, she would, as the curtain came down and we were all going to our dressing room, she'd be there high-fiving us all. Great job, y'all. Good. That was great. I love it. Love you. Good. Hey, Lisa. Good to see you. You know, like every night she was the best. Yeah. So that was why I wanted to do that show.
Most important, did you see Kudish fall through the stage?
It was the most
famously, an
horrendous
actor
thing.
fell through the stage rehearsing.
It was during our tech process. And the set was just this beast, and it had lots of trap doors in the floor that would open, and this whole office set would rise up from the floor, and the desks in the back moved, and the desks would pop in and pop out. Well, there was, a 10 by 10 square foot in the middle of the stage that opened up. It had this big garage door that would open up. And we were at tech rehearsal. It was probably 11:30 at night, and wires got crossed before we were finished rehearsing the last thing. And there in the show, Mark Kudish, in this fantasy sequence, is supposed to fall through this pit into hell or whatever, you know, because he played the bad nasty boss. And there was, you know, one of those stunt things, a big mattress that was supposed to be down. Well, apparently the wires got crossed, and he wasn't supposed to go, but he thought he was. So the pit opened up, we're doing the number, boom. There was no mat. Oh my God. He wasn't supposed to have gone because they were striking things. It was the end of the night or whatever, but apparently, yeah, I don't know, you know, who knows where the miscommunication was, but I mean, he could have really seriously been hurt.
You can't hurt Mark Kudish. You cannot hurt Mark Kudish.
What happened, he was basically bruised all up his side, but if you know Mark Kudish, he was like, well, I know how to fall, so it's fine.
That's Kudish.
You know,
I'm a trained actor.
I was fine. If I didn't know what I was doing, it could have been a different story. So basically, he saw that there wasn't there, and he turned, like he turned and landed on his side. So I mean, he was bruised. His whole back was bruised. Lucky he didn't break a thing.
Because we heard about that in town. Everybody heard about that tech rehearsal.
I saw Alice and Janney's face because she's standing there as Snow White and and she goes, you know, like, and then we see her scream and we hear a big thud, and then he didn't move for a couple seconds, and we were all like, what did Mark Kudish just die? Like, what is happening? You know, it was very scary. And, you know, there was a lot of things like that in our tech process that, you know, that were just a little like, you know.
Techs are tough.
Techs can be very tough.
Techs
Yeah.
can be very
So,
tough.
I mean, thank goodness nothing happened to him. He was bruised, and we
Kudish.
went on, and it was fine. Yes, to Kudish, and it was fine. But yeah, so that was quite a tech experience.
Every interview I do a shout out to Mark Kudish.
But I love it. He was like, well, I know what I'm doing, so that's why I'm not dead.
You know, you've all done television and film. Coming from a stage world, was it easy to grasp the whole process of doing that? Like when you were doing Phantom or when you were doing like Frasier and all the other things you've done, was it an easy thing for you to grasp the whole thing about cameras as opposed to stage work?
Pretty easy. I mean, somebody does say stand there.
That's great.
The one thing that I had a hard time grasping the fact that when I first started doing TV, you have no rehearsal at all. And like you rehearse in the theater, and then you do it. Whereas opposed to you're in your trailer, you have to come up with all of your stuff your own, and then you go do it, and that's it. And that's all you get. You get 1, 2, 3, 4 takes, how many takes you do, and that's it. And I had a hard time with that. I'm like, is it over? What is that it? Do I, and then no one's, and then usually a guest star. I've only been a series regular once, but the crew doesn't care. The director's like, yeah, that was fine. Okay, see you later. Sign up. I mean,
I could
it
do
was
that
like
better.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
I got another
it's
take.
so strange.
No, it's brutal. I mean, my first experience on television was 150 years ago. Was on Love American Style.
I was going to ask you about that. Yes.
I was on Love American Style.
It's hilarious.
And it was my first, I was on Paramount. I thought the
Yeah.
coolest thing in the world, I'm seeing like this huge studio lot, and like I'm gone through the gate, and it's really cool to go onto a lot for the first time. But the point, what I was going to say is that, so my first take was like a really long phone call, and I was just nervous beyond all. I couldn't feel my body from the neck down. I didn't know what I was talking about or doing, and I did the shot, and I don't think I got one word of it right. And I figured, okay, well, I'll get like 8 more takes at this. And then I hear somebody yell, moving on. And I thought, like, moving on to, I haven't done it yet. I haven't even started. And I said to the director, I said, I really need to do that again because I don't think I got one thing right. He said, you did it, you live with it. Moving on. Yeah,
Amazing.
that was my first TV experience. And that's kind of what it's like, you know? I mean, it can be like that, and it can be better than that, too.
Yeah.
Lisa, working on like the Twilight series. I mean, talk about working on those.
That was pretty incredible. My first actually film or TV thing I did was a guest spot on Ugly Betty, and I had a couple of lines, and it was very much so like in, out. I had no idea no one told me where to stand or where to go, and they were like, and before I knew it, it was done. But so that was a kind of a crazy experience. But then when I did the Twilight, I had a well-known character from the book. But it's a book, like not like they pared it down. I didn't have any dialogue, so I got to be in this huge production and not have any of the weight on my shoulders. So I learned a lot, and I got to just stand and observe. Like I had to be in the scenes, but none of the pressure was on me. So I loved that was my first, feature film thing that I got to be there and be present. And I mean, we shot for months. But my character was there, but I didn't have to do that much. So it was like, oh, that's good. I get to just sit back and watch and learn and get to know all the, what everybody's doing and how you're supposed to act and all that stuff. I'm like, is it different? I don't know, So that was the great part about that, and meeting these celebrities and figuring out that they're just like, they're just like everybody else.
Sure. Harriet, for you, doing so many, like doing the Frasier series, a role you're known for, and of course, Desperate Housewives. Was it easy for you to do? Like, I know you said stand here and stand there.
I think the sitcom stuff that I've done, and it's really pretty much fun. And you do rehearse it, so and you feel like in rehearsal you can't really do much wrong. But they want you to know your lines, and there's no sort of like, well, maybe if I said this. So it's, they are paid to do what they do, and you're paid to do what you do. So, but you get to create it, and the only hard part really is if you aren't making them laugh. A lot of times people get fired the very first day, and you can't believe it. And when I've been on a show, and I've been a regular on a show, and I think, oh my God, do you know how this works? I wish you could be funny right now today, because I just don't know if you're going to be here tomorrow. And you can't say that to anybody because it would totally unnerve them. But I've seen wonderful actors be fired. And people I've seen, theater here in New York, and I think, does anybody understand how good this person is? They probably would be really wonderful tomorrow. But that's what you can't do in that situation. It really is, you got to be good today in a sitcom. In our TV, they can kind of make you look a whole lot better than you are. And they do tell you things. Yeah. They'll let you sort of do it unless the director says, I'm going to need you to come in this door. We got 30 minutes to shoot this. We can't redo the lights, so I'm going to need you to come in this door. I don't want to hear that doesn't make sense. So you're going to go to the sink, and then you're going to come to the counter. and just figure out where you're going to say what line, and we got to do it fast. So, but other than that, they can make you look a whole lot better if you're vague or cut away or.
Yeah, it's not really
do
an
a lot of
actor's
stuff.
medium. It's more about the editing. I mean, I was so surprised. I did American Horror Story this past year, and what was on the script was completely different than what I saw. I was like, what was that? I mean, it was completely different. It was bizarre. Like, nothing I did was what we thought it was.
Yeah.
And it's not about you, really. It's about how they cut it and how they make you look. And
Yeah, and if you've got somebody wonderful who actually likes actors, one of the first TV jobs I got, the director said, I hired you because I saw you worked at the Guthrie. And I grew up in Minnesota, and I love the Guthrie. But I also know that the Guthrie is a 1,520-seat house or something. And I know, looking at your roles, what that meant you did. So I'm telling you, I don't want you to do that. I just want you to be a good actor. And he said, I'm going to bring the camera in to you. That means I really want you to do absolutely nothing. And you don't project anything like you did at the Guthrie. I'm doing all of that for you. And he said, your job is to bore me to death. Just bore me. And I said, so
That's
I did
actually
it.
great direction.
I did it one time,
That's
and he said, I'm
fantastic.
still not bored. And I did it again. He said, I'm not bored. I'm interested. And I did it again, and he said, okay, I'm almost bored out of my mind. And he said that was what I wanted. He said, we're doing that. I am doing the reaching for you. So you just do nothing. So it's so interesting.
I have one of those too, which was that I spent about 3 months sitting next to Nick Cage, and he said to me, it was Nick Cage. But he said to me that just because a director's saying action, this is film work. He said, just because, I said, I get so nervous when you hear action. It's like, I think like Ben Brantley's in the audience or something. It's like action. And he said, no, just because you hear the word action doesn't mean you have to do anything. Which is, I also, actually for film work, I think a good piece of advice. It's to get to be boring, grounded, really grounded. Yeah. I just thought I'd help.
Yeah.
Guys,
I'm just trying to help.
really great.
Yeah, but for
Just trying to
Sierra,
help.
for a
Anybody
second.
writing this
Yeah,
down?
Totally. Oh, it's all being taped.
Yeah.
Sierra, for you, doing Phantom in front of all those cameras, like you're doing a stage performance, but when you shot that, were you shooting it for camera?
No, I mean, it was at Royal Albert Hall, which is such a vast cavern of a place anyways. But I felt like what I loved about it was that the nuance and the honesty that we give within musical theater is as honest as, when it's, so you got to see the honesty. And it was like we treated it like it was a Chekhov play. And because people can easily be like, oh, it's just Phantom. But it's not just Phantom, and that's why the camera, what was great about having the camera was that you see that it is. But that's what we do, all of us do on stage. It's as honest as if you're doing TV work and just letting the camera do.
Small.
Yeah, it's just not. So I loved it.
Everybody who I've had in this chair has said the same thing. It's got to be really small. It's like, don't project it. Let me see it or something internally. It's a whole strange thing the way. That's why I was fascinated how stage actors work in front of a camera. And everyone I've spoken to said their first movies were like those first takes. Like Jonathan Groff was here last week, and he said, my lip kept quivering during the first take with Ang Lee during taking Woodstock, but it was a long shot. I knew when it finally came in, I would stop. And he said, the interesting thing about working with Ang Lee is there are no stand-ins in his movies. You have to stand in for all the scenes you're in, so you're in that whole world. So when it comes time for you to film a scene, you're in that comfort zone of doing something. He won't have stand-ins or anything, do lighting or anything. It's always you. But it's got to be so, but I just love all your stories that you tell about this. So what are you each enjoying the most about being back on Broadway and being in this show? It should have been you.
I think I said it before. The cast, I love it. I love working with David and Brian and Barbara, and it's a community. It's always wonderful
Yeah.
to be in a company, but this is an extraordinary company.
yeah, to add on that, just to go to work every day. I mean, it's really been a joy. Like I said before, it's not work. I love everybody. Truly, it's usually you can find a few people in the cast that you're like, take it or leave it, fair weather friends when the show's over. But I feel like I'll have, relationships with everybody in the future. It's been a really wonderful family to be a part of.
I feel like, it's so much, I would just echo the same thing, which is that the being with this crowd is fantastic. And it's also just a great privilege just to basically jump around for a living, which is kind of what I do, I guess. And just to go there and hear people laughing. I mean, it really is fun.
Michael X. Martin just said yesterday after we did our duet, he was like, I was doing our number, and I thought to myself, what a strange job I have. To get to play every night. I mean, I watch my kids, my 4-year-olds, have dramatic play in preschool, and they do that in preschool. Just pretend they're at the grocery store, they're playing school, and one's the teacher, and it's like, we get paid to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I love watching everybody, because in this show, everybody has their moment. They have their time to shine. Everybody has a song. Everybody has this moment, and I love getting to watch everybody take a turn and do it and do what they do and tell their part of the story.
One more thing. Another thing is fun is to see everybody close up. I mean, these great performers. I'm lucky enough I'm playing Tyne Daly's husband. And she's a radiant and forceful personality on and off the stage. And just to be with her and watch her is I feel very lucky to get to see that close up, closer than any of you guys.
Yeah, all the people who aren't here are so wonderful.
Yeah.
And there's another whole half of the company
Yeah.
that didn't fit on the stage today, and they're so delightful and wonderful, and all contribute so enormously to the dynamic of the show. And none of us are in each other's turf in a way. Everybody gets to be this wonderful botanical specimen.
It
in this
feels
garden.
so healthy.
Yeah.
It feels like a really healthy work and play environment. And what we are learning from, I have learned so much from everybody within this show. It is just, it just feels so healthy.
My final question for all of you is, what's the best bit of advice that you've been given, personally or professionally, that you live by?
I'll start. We know mine.
I'm lost.
I was told at 17 years old by a teacher when I was taking a master class, she said, "You are enough. You are so enough. It's unbelievable how enough you are." Meaning you don't have to do much. You don't have to add anything else. Just as you are, you're enough. And so that's become my mantra, and it's become, people know that now, and they at stage door will be like, "You're enough." It's like, "Yes, so are you." And like, Chip likes to take that one and run with it. Like, "You're too much. You're so too much." But that.
I would have to say, moisturize. I'd say just people in the past just say keep working, keep doing your thing. I mean, always jump into a production, always keep that wheel going. And there was a long period of time where I didn't. And now I feel like I just need to get back there as much as I can.
Well, I guess I would say James Lapine actually said to me, he said, "Chip, you worry about so many things." Those of you who know me know I do. I worry about so many things. He said, "You know what would be good for you? Is just concentrate on the work. Just think about just the task, the simple task that you have in front of you, and let us worry about all the other stuff." And I feel in show business that's actually really, really good advice.
Yeah, beautiful. Ladies?
I think for me, I don't know if it was necessarily someone sitting me down and giving me this specific advice, but I remember, I was first in New York and struggling, having jobs. I might have done a little regional theater here and there, and I called home and I said to my mom, if I moved home, would you think of me as a failure? And she said, "No, I think you're the bravest person I've ever met." And that fueled me to keep going, to keep keep trying, keep at it, keep, like you said, keep the wheel going, and just continue to do what you love to do, and no matter what the outcome, just the trying means you didn't fail at it.
Beautiful. Harriet?
I can't think of any advice, but I can think of a lot of flaws I have, things that I need to watch out for. And it's I need to listen and realize that the other person is taking a very long time to formulate this idea, but let them have the time, and just to try to stay open in a rehearsal situation. And if something goes wrong, really try to come back the next day and know that it's a new day. And that's something that I think is really helps me almost more than anything, is just to like go. You just have to like shake the Etch-a-Sketch or start over and try to go in with an attitude of we are here to create something. You're here to explode it, or you're here to try to create something. And that, I think, and so listening to people and trying to make sure everybody has their opportunity. But
That's just good life advice, I think.
oh, well,
You
that's
know?
me all over.
But can I just say that Harriet was one of my most incredible teachers within this rehearsal process. From the beginning, the environment that you created around yourself, the energetic field of Harriet, that she was so... she never questioned, she never was somebody who then went and made waves. She was always knew her stuff. She was off book and she was in there and she was making choices. I learned so much from watching that, instead of being like, this is bad, can you change the line, or something like. She was just as pure and beautiful to watch as could ever be, and I just felt like was such a role model. I unhealthily love Harriet.
Well, I want to thank you all for one of the best and fun afternoons. It's been so great, so
Thank you
insightful.
for having us.
Ladies and gentlemen, the company of It Should Have Been You.
Thank you.